Following is a paid program. The content is provided by the advertiser. WPSL, its staff, management, and ownership are not responsible for the content. Investment involves risk. Prior to making any investment, an investor should meet suitability requirements. Past results are not necessarily indicative of future performance. Neither the opinions expressed nor the information provided constitutes a recommendation to purchase or provide investment advice. The material presented is not a substitute for obtaining professional advice from a qualified person or firm. Securities offered through Centaurus Financial, member FINRA and SIPC. And now, the host of the Team MARTEK Hour, Joe MARTEK.
You just announced it, the closing. I saw it on the tube this morning, closing of the Roosevelt Bridge. And then I saw where they closed the old Roosevelt Bridge, too.
Yes,
and
underneath.
You just said that it's because chunks of concrete are falling off that one section. And I said, well, wait a minute. It doesn't go. Yeah, it does. On the south end.
You bet.
Old Dixie Highway goes underneath the bridge.
Because you can sit at the Pelican restaurant there, and you can look up, and you can see as it's going right over.
You know, you can walk underneath all of it.
Yes,
to go to
the fishing.
To go to
the
Sailor's,
railroad tracks and everything.
Go to Sailor's Return. It's real exciting when a train's coming over you when you're walking through there.
You watch all the bolts rattle.
I'm just telling you.
And just
your dentures are going to fall off if
well,
you're not careful.
And I know you're a boater, and for all the boaters out there, it's shut down.
Now, let me ask you a question.
Go underneath the bridge.
You can't go under it either.
No.
Wow.
Coast Guard has it shut at both sides.
I wonder how long it's going to last. Nobody knows.
It'll be a long time.
Well, apparently, from the way the Stuart police have described it, is that they're doing normal maintenance on it.
Right.
And
they
apparently, around 10:30, huge chunk of bridge fell off.
And that's not normal.
What?
We hope. Well, that's not
maybe
normal.
in Jersey and Connecticut.
Or New York.
Or New York.
As the body falls with the concrete.
Well, those structures, the way they came out, remember?
They were in sections.
Big sections, and they kind of like tinker-toyed and put it all together.
Well, that whole bridge is hollow with lights all the way through.
Yeah. And there's a bridge within a bridge.
Yes.
So, I mean, their vehicles.
You could drive a car through that thing.
Well, yeah, and their vehicles, I guess, are the ones that spotted all of this last night when they were doing the work.
Well, I'd rather hear that before cars go collapsing into the river. Yeah.
Just a piece of two pieces of useless information.
That's all? Just two?
So far today.
Was it Minneapolis that had that big one? That was horrible.
Well, hey, I was the 7th car stopped on the west coast of Florida when the Skyway collapsed.
Wait a minute. The Skyway collapsed?
You don't remember that?
No.
That was like
Sky Bridge, yeah.
It was in the 70s, 77, I think, 1977.
We were in San Diego then. Oh, really?
Yeah.
It got real squirrely and
what happened? A freighter hit it.
Ooh.
And knocked out a whole section. It collapsed on top of the freighter.
Oh, God.
Well, there was X number of people killed, but one of the more interesting things. Now, we were on our way to an appointment down in Sarasota, and we got diverted by the police and didn't find out why until we were there. But we were the 7th car stopped, and one of the cars came off the bridge, landed on the freighter.
And the guy, like a movie.
And the guy didn't die. But there were some people that weren't so lucky.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it was that's when they built the new Sunshine Skyway Bridge, which is, and then you should see the abutments they put in around the pilings now. I mean,
they're massive.
The fact that all these
was it fog? How did the ship hit the
called
bridge?
Pilot error.
Yeah. How did that ship hit that continent over there? And
a couple shots of whiskey, maybe.
Pilot error. Hey, you'll never know the whole truth, probably, but all I know is, hey, that's happened. Now, second piece of useless information. I go down to the Keys almost every year diving for lobsters. At the end of July. So we go down there and we're taking the boat, and around the pilings where the bridges are put in.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, you talk about concrete coming off. The rebar is showing.
What?
Yeah. What they did? They put. It's amazing how Flagler, when he put in the old railroad bridge, is still there. It's still there. But the new bridge, they re-rot in the concrete, and now it's sitting in salt water, and
salt.
all of a sudden when it when it expands, the rebar cracks the concrete off of it. So now they're sleeving. They're putting sleeves around the pilings and building those up, and how they're doing it, I don't know. But can you imagine? I mean, let me just tell you, I'm a fatalist. If I'm going to die, I'm going to die. I'm not really overly concerned about stuff like this. But guess what? Every once in a while, being a fatalist doesn't work. You die anyway, because like the Roosevelt Bridge or the old Sunshine Skyway. But all of that 7-mile bridge, they're wrapping every one of those pilings.
That's a big contract.
I mean, monster contract.
It's going to be for 50 years.
Well, I don't know who's in charge. I mean, there's been no publicity about it.
Hey, some things never stop. I have a good friend, and he had his entire career, I mean, from high school on, working around the dike, around the Lake Okeechobee.
Yeah.
Sure.
Bringing up fill and fixing it for his entire career.
Yeah, and did he die yet?
No, he's retired now. We're paying him because he was worked for the county or the state or something.
Hey, I imagine there's new people's new career. They're going to be
They got a new guy doing the same thing he did
forever and
now.
ever.
Oh yeah, never going to stop.
340-1590, 340. Where's Alan today? He didn't call in.
He's on his way, apparently.
Did he call?
He called Carol, yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't hear any clunking. Normally we hear him coming. 340-1590, Dan Warren.
You've got to be correct, Joe.
Correct. When did I have to be correct?
You have to be.
As of last week.
Politically correct?
Sensitive now.
I'm moving to Minnesota so I can have a party downtown.
A block party.
Yeah,
it's
a block
party.
Cliff, you want to go too?
You moved to Seattle for Seattle for a block party.
Well, but you try.
That's the whole downtown.
Aren't they going to do both now, Minnesota and Seattle?
I don't know.
Are they starting block parties?
Listen,
but it's
I
a
have
six
tried
block
not to watch
party.
news I'm not a news junkie, so it's like, unless there's something new, if I turn on the news and if I hear the same thing I heard for the last 3 or 4 days, in about 10 minutes, I go watch something else. I don't want to hear old news over and over.
And that's what you're going to hear over and over again. This was like. What was the big concert when we were kids?
Woodstock.
This is like Woodstock, only miniature, so they're saying.
Hey, the big concert down here was the Palm Beach Music and Arts Festival at the Speedway.
Well, didn't they have one last year, 2 years ago in Okeechobee? A lot of people, and then they canceled it this last year. But it was like a few thousand people showed. It was
more than a few.
Oh, yeah. Was it?
It was a huge crowd.
We had about 40,000 there.
That's called quite a few thousand. It's more. It's almost a whole county population, right?
It probably is, yeah.
Well, see, back when I was in Michigan, up in Cadillac, the football games for the local high school, more people showed up for the game than lived in the county.
It's a big draw. Friday night football.
Friday night football was the big thing up north in the little towns.
We, when San Diego State came to play at Bowling Green, we arrived at the hotel on it was a Thursday. I guess.
In Ohio.
In Ohio, and so the sports information guy from Bowling Green College said, "You guys have got to go see this high school football game." Are you crazy? I'm not going to high school football. He said, "No, you've got to see this because there's going to be twice as many people at this high school game as we'll have tomorrow for you guys." And he was right.
Yeah.
There were 22,000 people at this high school game.
That was a big one. Yeah. Well, I remember the University of Michigan had 105,000 people at that stadium that only held 100. Yeah, but it was.
Well, they sit in the stairwells.
Everywhere.
They walk around. They stand. I mean, a lot of big college programs have that.
Now the Eggheads at Purdue have been selling programs for colleges where you can socially distance your crowds, and they laid it out for Ohio State, which is a 100,000 seat stadium, kind of like Michigan, and. They can put. I think their capacity is going to be around 42,000.
Now, are they going to charge
be socially
more? Are they going to charge more for those seats because you're taking this place of 2 people or 3 people?
Knowing Ohio State, they probably will.
Let me just say, and people will pay it.
Sure, they will.
Of course, they will. And it's just there's all kinds of stuff. that hey, we're going through a terrible, terrible situation that will get cured, and it looks to be imminent with antidotes and virus.
You are taking your mask to the Bahamas, aren't you?
Well, listen, I got bandanas, right?
And a gun.
And a gun.
Oh, jeez.
The worst thing you can do in the Bahamas is take a gun. They don't like guns.
No.
They don't like that. My bandana?
He peels it. That yellow bandana.
I lost it already. I had it in the car, and I guess I put it in my pocket to go into someplace, and I probably dropped it out of my pocket. So somebody's got themselves a nice new bandana. But 340-1590, 340-1590. Back in 2004.
That's a long way.
2004, Dan Warren, independent insurance agent, big word, independent. Greg Fasula, attorney. That's not a big word, attorney, but
it's a powerful word.
It's a powerful word. And Joe MARTEK, financial advisor, started doing radio shows with the very simple concept is each one of us had a different area of expertise, and each one of us could help people with various things that came along. And to put it mildly, it has been unbelievably gratifying, personally. You know what, Greg, or Dan, the number of people, and you and I both just get a big rush out of this when we can help somebody that's got nothing to do with making any money, because what you've got in our group is around 200 years of combined experience. And, wasn't it your dad said, you can't get experience without age?
Well, he said wisdom is an accumulation of mistakes.
Yeah.
Yours or somebody else's.
Well, there's something.
Preferably
That's so
somebody
true.
else's.
Well, you understand why old people don't make as many mistakes? Because they already have.
And my dad
they
used
get
to say,
tired of making them.
My dad used to say, in your case, Dan, they are your mistakes. Because he knew me well.
Oh, man.
Well, then, in about 2009, Ms. Victoria Lloyd Remax of Stewart, hardest working realtor, period. I mean, nobody works harder than Victoria does. I mean, she's only got 2 speeds. She's either working or sleeping. And she does, if she tells you she's going to call you at 3 in the morning, don't go to bed, because she will. She's just, this girl does what she says she's going to do.
Well, she's a professional. One of the biggest problems that I've always had with realtors, it's what I call the professional lister.
Yep.
They just list it, put a sign out in the yard, and they hope somebody else can come along and do their job for them, which is to sell it. And she does such a magnificent job of, if she's going to list your house, she's not going to tell you, well, it's worth gazillions of dollars when it's not. She's going to help you market it right and get it sold for you.
And then, which brought us to Mike Paulus, mortgage broker, because at the same time, back in 2009, after the Great Recession or during it, there were words out calling there's no financing available, which was never true. And Mike had to come out and dispel some of the rumors. But what happened literally was just before the Great Recession, you could fog a mirror and get a mortgage, whether you qualified or not. And they went back to the old rules, which were simply you had to prove you could make the payment.
Shocked.
What a concept. What a concept. So from that day till today, and all before that, VA had no money down mortgages. U.S. Department of Agriculture had...
And I didn't even know they lend money.
Yeah. The United States Department of Agriculture.
Well, they want you to move into rural areas, but
all Martin
County
is rural areas.
There you go.
However, I mean, they have limits on how much you can make, and you had to fit a window. And let me just tell you, 90% of the homes in Martin County didn't qualify.
Right, you're not going to live on the beach.
You're not going to live on the beach or Sewell's Point or.
But out west of town.
Oh yeah, out west is
and
what it was.
And that's really where they want you to go anyway.
Yeah, and that's what it was designed for. Like in St. Lucie County, it's mostly west of the Turnpike. So, in fact, I think only west of the Turnpike.
Yeah, but look at all the beautiful new places being built out west of the Turnpike.
Well, isn't Del Webb going to build a great big
monster place?
Becker Road and I-95 west. It's west of
way out there. Past
well,
the
that's
other
where
side
the brand new public shopping center is going in there.
Yep,
well, they got the one right now on Becker at South Bend, which is across from Tesoro.
Oh no, this is way
out west. Yeah. Well, I drove out there as far as you can go where Becker quits, and it is the other side of 95, but not far. And they've got trucks running in and out of there.
Oh, yeah.
It's starting to do the infrastructure.
It's going to be a major shopping center, with Publix as the anchor.
Yeah.
I remember, seeing Publix in St. Lucie West thinking, there's nothing out here. This is in 1988 when
If you haven't noticed, nothing stays the same. Especially here.
No kidding.
There used to be Peacock Cattle Ranch out there.
That's right.
We came up and used to go hog hunting out there and stuff.
So you probably still can.
Well, you still could, just don't get caught.
Just don't get caught because
the Cowboys won't catch you today, but somebody will catch you.
Yeah.
We do have cats.
Feral cats.
No.
Big cats.
Big.
Well, there are still Florida Panthers.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and the Bobcats are,
Yeah.
this is their home as well.
Yeah.
And they love that golf course. And
We had a bobcat out at Ballantrae about a month ago.
Okay.
Right in
Yeah.
my front yard. I see like a little rabbit, and then about 5 seconds later,
Rabbit's gone.
rabbit's gone.
Well, just
Dinner.
south side of Stewart, before you get to Hobe Sound, there's subdivisions that have a street that goes in with the woods, and the woods is small, but every once in a while, bobcat comes roaming through the yard.
I'll bet.
Yeah. 340-1590, 340-1590. So we don't talk much politics here.
Well, we're not talking much politics compared to what we did last election cycle.
Yep.
Because there was a real political atmosphere. We have gone through quarantines and pandemics and economy collapsing. Used to be you'd have these politicians, fighting each other on TV every day up till November. Now we don't have that. But it's starting to re-gear, they got to do something.
I just, a lot of things that, I don't know, I guess I'm easily impressed that all of a sudden what used to take 4 years to get a virus taken care of, if they took care of it at all, remember AIDS and Ebola and all the rest of them, now 5 months behind the scenes, somebody's pulling the plug and making these people jump through hoops to get this thing taken care of before the election.
The one thing this pandemic has done is to not force, but get all those pharmaceutical companies to work together.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never seen that in my life.
Well, you had the Manhattan Project back during World War
Sure.
II, where the government said, you don't have a choice. You will work on this and you will work on that, and nobody knew what the other guy was working on. But the game was, we must have atomic power for the bomb that we wanted to. So I believe, and maybe I'm skeptical, but I've always felt that if the government really, really put the hammer down and said, you will come up with this, don't come up for air till you find out what we want, they could accomplish a lot more than they do.
Well, guess what? I'm sure the boy we got running the country right now has got one of the biggest sledgehammers he's carrying around.
And he should, because, we have a lot of people who die from flu every year, and it does affect the marginal, the people that have pre-existing problems.
Of course.
Just like this COVID-19 is a killer of mostly elderly who have pre-existing. So we understand that.
3 of us in here.
All of us.
Four of us in here.
No, Cliff is a kid. I mean, he's the youngster.
Yeah, but he looks older than the rest of us.
That's right. He's in great shape.
And he's in great shape now.
Yeah, he doesn't walk in circles anymore. He's got 2 new hips.
He's the bionic guy.
Yeah, you can't go through a. Hey, you light up like a fire whenever you go to anything.
Yeah.
You got what is it? Titanium hips?
Yes.
Uh-oh.
That's worth a lot of money. Somebody might take that.
Metal
Somebody
detectors
call
don't pick up
TSA.
titanium? No.
They pick up all the stuff in my legs.
Just like my guns are titanium.
That's why it's 340-1590.
Titanium bullets and all, casings.
340-1590. 340-1590. Well, I'm just kind of looking forward a bit to this political season as we actually get the 2 of them, if we can get them on the same stage with the debate. A lot of people are saying they don't think Uncle Joe's going to do any debates.
That may happen once, twice at the most. It's not going to be a weekly event like it used to be.
Well, it
What do you
doesn't
think?
need to be. I mean, it used to just be like 2 or 3. I mean,
Yeah, but 1 or 2 is different than 2 or 3. So what do you think? You think they'll actually do 2?
they probably will.
Yeah.
They should. They
Now,
owe it to
let me
us.
ask you a question. Who do you think might win that debate?
I think they'll do 2 for president and then the vice presidential candidate.
They'll have 2
Depends
of
on
them.
who's the host, because certain hosts give the answers to their preferable candidate.
Oh, come on.
But do you think Trump will accept that?
Yeah.
I mean, he'll kick them right out of the room if they don't ask the question properly.
A good debater bypass that question altogether.
Doesn't even, talks about whatever he wants.
He goes right to a different subject. And we all know that a good debater doesn't even answer your question unless he wants to.
I love that when the reporter's asking a question and they don't answer it, and he goes, now listen, I asked you a question. Will you answer the question I asked you? Yes, and then they go on for another 5 minutes and don't answer it again.
They just want the time to talk.
And they get it. And they show me a politician that doesn't want to have airtime.
What's the old Clinton thing? What does is mean?
Yeah.
What does is mean?
I remember Britt Hume one time. Somebody tried that with him. And so he let him start a second time. And so he said, okay, so how many times are we going to go through this? Answer the initial question. He just blew the guy out of the water. And it was like, and then he starts stuttering and stammering. It was
I always
great.
thought Bill O'Reilly was good at bringing him back to topic.
Oh, yeah, he
O'Reilly
could be
would
vicious.
bring him back.
Yeah, he was tough. Hey, 340-1590, 340-1590. So speaking of the insurance business.
Well, I mean, as many of you know, we've gone ahead and we have merged with a really large company out of New Jersey called World Insurance. And they're one of the largest insurance agencies in the country. So, like, I got a call from Mike Policies.
When did this happen?
Yeah, a couple of weeks ago. Yeah.
Were you going to tell us? I mean,
he is telling you right now.
Well,
I kind of set him up for this.
But like, I got a call from Mike Policies' nephew.
Yeah.
He is an insurance guy up north, and he has somebody moving to Sanibel. So they gave me a call. I called up the division we have over there on the West Coast, and I said, "Here's the guy." So what this has done for my office, this has opened up a lot of large companies that I didn't have access to. And companies, for personal lines like auto owners and stuff, didn't have access to that yet. So it's going to be a really good thing as we digest all these different companies and stuff. I'm looking forward to that because I'm going to be able to serve my clients even better.
So how many companies are you going to have under you?
I bet you 200.
I don't know.
Don't you think?
I can only think it'll be that much or more.
Oh my God!
Well, you know what? You realize how many companies are out there, and what happens? The bigger you are as an agency, the more strength you have. The longer you're in business, the more strength you have. So when you get a guy like Dan who's been around 400 years, and he merges with one of the biggest in the whole country, where they now say, "Hey, so much for calling you up, getting my boat quote. I can get it done easily without bugging you for a month."
Call a guy in Hawaii.
Well, here's the thing. Like I have a client who is buying, and I'm going to be graceful when I say this, an older motel in the Grant area.
Oh boy.
On US 1. So it's been around for a while. Seen a lot of liftoffs. I guarantee it. All right.
Anyway.
I don't know.
Anyway.
So
I'm not saying a word.
Joe.
Don't go there. So I call them up. Well, because I'm trying to learn my way around these guys. They go, "Oh yeah, we got a hotel motel division specialist." I send it right there. Boom, it gets it all done. How wonderful is that?
Well, the key thing is there's insurance for what's the saying in real estate is there's an ass for every saddle. Well, quite honestly, there's a saddle for everybody on this planet. There's something. Now, I guarantee you, not everything can be the same price. There's risk, and the risk has to be charged appropriately for the amount of risk that is taken. So,
well, they have primarily been not in Florida.
Yeah,
they're now getting a good footprint in Florida. Well, as you and I both know, the Florida property markets are totally different.
Yep.
The things that you can take for granted up in the Northeast, you cannot do because of the windstorm.
Yeah.
Oh, I was just going to say.
Yeah, pretty simple.
Did they read all the hurricane stuff?
Yeah. Well, I mean, a new home in the Northeast could be 40, 50 years old.
Yeah.
Here, I got some companies, if your roof is over 5 years old, they don't want you.
The key thing is it's back to risk again. No insurance company wants to lose money on purpose. So what they do, the underwriters look at statistics and everything that goes. And hey, that's the way it works. People get upset, say, "Well, why are they gouging me?" I said, "Well, because you're a high risk."
Many people have not lived here because, as you know, Florida has been a magnet for people. Mm-hmm. Well, all you got to do is go back to Hurricane Andrew. That was the start of this problem. and my industry pretty much shut down.
1992.
All right. So then, if you recall, they started Citizens.
Yep.
And Citizens almost overnight became the largest source of insurance in the state of Florida. The largest.
That used to be called the pool, meaning.
It was the FRPCJUA,
Yeah.
and we had the wind pool, and they merged to become Citizens.
Right.
So
right.
over the last, say, 15 years, our market has evolved where Citizens is not needed that much. But if we're not careful, Citizens will come back and be the largest source of insurance in Florida again.
So the bottom line is we have to change your radio commercials.
Yeah, if things don't get better. If things
No.
don't get better.
No.
I mean, with your
No,
new
his
partner.
agency
No,
stays
the
the same.
agency's the same name.
What it is,
Okay.
it's the ownership.
Okay.
They'll eventually do a some sort of press release and different things. That's all going to happen. But I try to stay ahead of the curve. I want my clients to know, hey, things are moving along at a good pace for us.
Well,
we look
it's
forward
better
to
for
that.
the client.
Congratulations. That sounds great.
Well, when you are the premier independent insurance agent in one area and you've only got one store, that's not the same as having 50 stores all over the country.
Right.
So all of a sudden you have more clout and more power if you have more stores in more states. So
Well, it was a very nice experience, and we actually had multiple people who wanted to merge.
yeah.
So, what my goal was to do the best for my clients and the best for my staff.
So now with Dan, you know what he's going to be doing? Not much.
He's on the boat.
No, well, you know what I really want to do? When I first started in business, I loved going out and selling stuff. I don't have time to sell anything. I only have time to sit around the office and do stuff. So
You're putting
by
out
having-
fires most of the
Well,
time.
by having somebody take care of payroll and this and that and all the things that I sort of have to sort of hover over, it'll free me up to do that stuff.
Well, now you can sell some radio time in your spare time.
I could.
Boy, isn't that
You're
right?
hired.
But I'd rather sell insurance. I don't speak Spanish. I know you like the bilingual salespeople.
340-1590, 340-1590. Speaking of, though, insurance, we're getting into hurricane season.
Ooh.
Let's pray that, we've been through enough here in Florida. Let's all pray that we don't have any bad hurricanes. I don't mind, and I've told this before, as a child, we prayed for hurricanes so we didn't have to go to school.
And get to go surfing.
And then in high school, we would go surfing, and then when we were young adults, we'd play poker and have, little barbecues and stuff. After Andrew, now they have all this fear factor, and
Yeah.
they'll tell you, there is a little bit of nothing blowing off the African coast. You better watch it.
Yeah.
And every 30 minutes, they're going to give you an update.
Oh, yeah.
All right. And for those of us who've lived here for almost all our lives, we don't fear them. We respect them.
Absolutely.
But for somebody who's new, it can be terrifying.
And then you see a Weather Channel reporter walking through your town, and then you just shudder.
I think they buy. Yeah.
I think they bring in a water truck to get those
And a
weather
big
guys,
fan.
make it look good so they have boots on so they can stand in a puddle. But listen, all of us are little boys and we have puddles we could jump in. So these guys are still doing it and they're old guys.
We'd go skimboarding. Throw that skimboard.
Yeah,
out,
and that's the
jump on
truth, isn't that? Hey, you know what I saw? A gas-powered skimboard.
Oh, you're kidding.
It was a little tiny board. Anyway, you remember the old jet skis when they first came out? They stood about that, a foot out of the water. This thing was almost level with the water, and I'm watching this guy, and it sounds like a little wind-up airplane motor, but he was going 20, 25 miles an hour standing up on this board with a little rope on it.
Whoa.
And I thought, man.
Like he's water skiing all by himself.
Like he's water skiing. Yeah, it was really neat out at the sandbar, and I've been trying to find out what that thing is.
Probably homemade.
Well, it could be, but anyway, it was something. 340-1590, 340-1590, and guess what? We got a phone call. Hey, Pat, it's Joe MARTEK. You're on the radio.
Hey, you guys sound good today.
Thank you.
The situation with the racial problem.
Hey, boy.
Yeah, I don't know if it was 2 or 3 years ago when the young fella up there in South Carolina went into church and
Yes, I remember that.
killed 9 people, said he did it, and I believe he's still around. I wonder if it would have made any difference to the black people if he was done away with?
Good question.
You know that white people don't like that crap either.
No. Well, none of us. Who likes violence unless you're a professional prize fighter?
That's not violence. That's murder.
Well, yeah. Well, okay.
Well, here's what you got to keep in mind. Unfortunately, Pat, we have a legal system that even if you're given the death sentence, it's on a slow motion train before that ever happens. Yep. There's an entire industry designed to postpone, delay, and perhaps stop that execution. Now, the flip side of that, unfortunately, over the last, say, 10 or 15 years, we have seen a lot of people, primarily black men, who have been unjustly arrested over crimes they didn't commit, who, with the DNA evidence, have been let out after much of their life has been transpired. So I understand the reluctance to kill without every stone being overturned to make sure we're executing the right guy. So, I look at it from both sides. I think the death penalty is a necessary evil, if that term makes any sense. I don't think you should be allowed to live a long life at the taxpayer's expense on a heinous crime that we have overwhelming evidence that you did it. And with the DNA evidence we have today, very unlikely that we're going to have a bad decision to be overturned later. That's my position on it.
Sure.
Yeah, well, I agree with everything all of you have said on that subject. But when it is obvious.
Yep.
That's what I'm talking about. And I think the general population, no matter what color, would see they mean business.
Well, I know the state of Texas is trying to speed up that process. Yeah. Not every state is trying to do that. In the past, I have advocated for public execution. I have felt that many people don't realize how terrible it is to take a man's life or a woman's life and execute them and end everything they have or would have. So if you're going to do that, I don't think it should be done behind closed doors where nobody sees. It's an awful thing. It's a terrible thing, and people ought to know how bad it is before they make that decision to kill somebody.
That's a good one, too, yeah.
I remember it was 1976, right before I got into sports. I did a series on death row at San Quentin. And there was a guy who was part of this rating series, and I won't mention his name. But anyway, he died on death row.
Yeah.
He wasn't executed, but he died on death row in 2016. So you figure
76
Did he die
to
of
16.
old age?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All that time, and the taxpayers of California had him on death row.
Sure. And,
It was like,
they
oh
say
my
it
goodness.
costs more money to kill somebody in the legal system, fry them or
Oh, it
hang them,
does.
than it does to keep them in jail for their whole life.
Yeah.
Well, it costs more money to put a man in prison than to give him a college education.
Yeah.
In a timely way.
Yeah, I think timely. You hit the right word.
Timely.
Timely.
Well, our legal system doesn't allow for timely. That's
Those darn lawyers.
Well, it's the truth. It's the truth, and when you think about it, the lawyers get paid by the word or by the talking or writing, and the more they talk and the more they write, the more they get paid. And when they've got the state paying the bill, man, they can work forever.
Hey, I have a friend, and his son is an attorney, and he is one of the guys that as soon as you are convicted of murder and are sentenced to death, it's like ding, ding, he's on.
Yeah.
That's what he does.
That's his job. Yeah.
And one other thing, not quite to the murder part, but I guess you guys caught the news about the fella they got up in Vero that goes into Walmart.
With the $1 million?
Ago. Goes into Walmart, shoplifts, he steals the car, shoots 2 people in the parking lot, and then the cops shoot 15 times at the car, but he ends up shooting himself. He, from Virginia. He only had 88 convictions before that.
Ooh.
That's all?
Yeah.
Hey, listen.
Yeah.
I'm sure that he's probably spent way too much time in jail for 88.
Well,
if you spent a year for each one, you'd be 88 years old if you started at one. Can you imagine?
Well, as a member of society, when I hear that, I am shocked that he's out on the streets.
Yeah.
Just like I'm shocked when I hear about the guy who kills somebody drunk driving,
Sure.
who's had 4 or 5 convictions as a drunk driver. That shocks me that we allowed him to do that.
Yeah. Well, listen.
One other thing, did you see on the news last night, I believe, I saw it on the internet, but the little old lady, 90 years old, walking with a walker, and a young fellow walks up, meets her, hits her in the head.
Knocks her down.
Knocks her down. She hits her head on the fire hydrant. I don't know what's happened since then.
Yeah, I saw that.
Well, let's hope they catch him.
They got him. They did.
They
finally caught him.
Good.
Yeah.
Well,
He's got like 90 convictions.
Yeah, well,
He's just misunderstood.
I think his time has come.
Isn't that it? Look, here comes what happens, and how do you ever cure this race problem? This is Joe Martek's opinion now.
You're right.
Poor people, whether they're white, black, pink, green, yellow, orange, I don't care what color they are, the ones that live in the worst neighborhoods and are poor commit most of the crime. How do you change this whole concept? It's an education type thing. How do you change that? And I don't know the answer to that. It's a question because I grew up in Detroit, working class. Dad was a milkman. We lived in GI housing after the Second World War. I lived literally on one of the worst streets I was born on in a city of Detroit that's so bad the blacks wouldn't even go there. But I mean, it was.
Well, Joe, here's what I've always said. If you live in a household where you get what I call mailbox money, you just live off the dole, as they used to say. Yeah. I always thought that their children in those homes, that's normal for them.
Yeah. What do they know? That's how they're raised.
The only way you can change that is the government, and I've come a long way to say this. The government should tell that person who is on those programs, we're going to stop that program. We're going to give you a guaranteed job. You're going to work for us. You will not need to be in any benefits because we're going to pay you enough. And here's the reason why. I want that child to see their parents going to work every day.
Education.
So in that household, work is normal. Yeah. Having a job is normal.
Yeah.
And that's how you change decades and decades of that perception that I can't get ahead. I'm just going to not do anything.
Yep. Pat, there's probably no easy. We know there's no easy answer, and
if all the people in the position that you mentioned, Joe, where the poor, the disgruntled, never going to get out of this, if all of them were that way, would be one thing. But a lot of them come out of that and do better.
Of course they do. Of course.
So that must mean that it's the few that cause the overall problem.
Look at Ben Carson as an example.
Yeah.
Anyway,
All
that's
right.
it for today.
Hey, my man, thanks for calling in, Pat. We appreciate it. 340-1590, 340-1590. In fact, we just had an attorney from Wisconsin, a retired prosecuting attorney from Wisconsin, join us. And, it's a real hard thing.
He's working off Central Time.
Central Time. That's why he's late.
It is 10:45 in Milwaukee.
Yeah, well, and you know what it is? I think what he was doing, he probably went out of his way to go across the Roosevelt Bridge because he knew it was closed, so he'd have an excuse for being late.
Well, what happened is all of a sudden I'm on US 1 and the blue and red lights start flashing behind me.
What'd you do now?
So I pull over and...
Were you going 90 again?
No, and all of a sudden a DOT, a Department of Transportation truck pulls next to me.
Uh-oh.
Guy gets out wearing hazmat suit and the officer says, "Let me see your walker." And they scan my walker. And they tell me that even though the walker is in the back seat of my car, I've gone over the Roosevelt Bridge so many times that my walker is possessed from them scanning it, and I am the cause of the problem at the Roosevelt Bridge. Well, then they tell me to wait and a priest, a rabbi, and a pastor get out of a 1938 Packard, and they walk up to me and they start praying for me, and they tell me that they're going to surround me, and I had to put on a bathing suit, and they dunked me in the St. Lucie River. And then
it's contaminated there.
And then they said to completely absolve my sins and clear my walker of any demons, I had to continue on US 1. So that's what I did.
So that's why you know what? I got to admit, how long did it take you to memorize that story?
I just did it extemporaneously.
He's a lawyer. He can think on his feet.
340-1590, 340-1590. We got another caller. Russ, I think it's Russ. You're on the radio.
Yep. You asked how you solve the problem. I'd say that the easiest way is to outlaw Democrats.
Well, we used to not have Democrats. We've had Whigs, Tories, Bull Moose parties. We didn't always just have the two existing parties. So, maybe it's time for a third party that actually makes sense. I don't know, but I'm just throwing that out.
Well,
the Democrats can't exist without an underclass.
Why have Republicans? Neither one of them work.
Well, here, listen.
How about we have an American party? That are patriotic people. That's what we need.
I prefer to call myself a conservative. Now, I'm not 100% conservative because I do have some things that I believe in that are somewhat liberal. But I'm back. Dan and I are sitting here, and Greg, we look back at real basic values. We learned fear at home of our father because if we did anything wrong, we got beat. Okay.
Well, I call that respect.
Yeah,
and my dad
when I was a kid, it wasn't respect; it was fear.
Real fear from the nuns.
Oh, now then, as Greg and I, we go to
spiritual fear.
We go to Catholic school where it was perfectly legal to kill the kids whenever you wanted to, right? And if they didn't kill you by the time you went home, and if they didn't finish you off, the old man finished you off. Well, we grew up understanding right from wrong. I mean, it was a pretty simple philosophy that never. With Dan, when we got tempted to do something wrong, the first thing was not worried about the police. It was worried about what would the old man do.
And my dad would tell me, I don't have any money, I can't come save you, so you're on your own.
So, Russ, I mean, we're on the same page, but the bottom line is liberals wanting to give everything away and making an excuse for everybody, it's certainly not helping the situation.
I've got a great idea. Defund Congress.
Defund Congress.
Just defund Congress.
Hey, you weren't supposed to be a professional politician. You were supposed to serve the public, go do your job.
What?
Well, you're supposed to serve the public and then come home to your real job.
Yeah.
And your real job's what you lived off of. And you weren't a professional politician who went in with nothing and then retired 40 years later as a gazillionaire. That wasn't the way it worked.
But it sure works now.
It works well now.
Hey, Russ, listen, it's a very sad time, and there's no easy answers, and because of politics, what we are expecting, the group in this room, or at least most of us, are expecting Trump to do a pretty clean sweep, because
I hope so.
What I'm talking about, the silent majority is still being silent. They're letting the Dems run at the mouth. They're letting all of this anarchy happen. They're watching people do the most stupid things in the world and ruining cities. Even our Wisconsin attorney over here, he says,
they try to pit us against each other. And I've said this before, Scott, and I'm going to say it again. I have a brother-in-law who I dearly love, and he's the biggest black guy you ever met.
He's a big boy.
And if you tell him he's an African-American, you're going to have a long conversation with him because he's going to tell you, I'm an American.
Yep.
He served the country. He was a ranger in the service. He doesn't play that game, and I am praying that eventually all American citizens will view themselves as Americans, not as a hyphenated American.
There you go.
Well, if you put that hyphen word in there, then that eliminates anyone else from being like you. I can't be a black American.
No.
So,
I'm an Italian American.
Yeah,
right.
Dan's a Russian American.
He's a Russian.
And they do that.
I'm a mud American.
No, he's a Russian.
And they do that. They do that to separate you from me.
Yeah, and it works.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it's worked. Hey, listen, Russ, thanks for calling in, my man.
Yeah.
Okay, I think, do we still have another caller? Is Scott waiting?
I think Scott's on one.
Scott, I'll push the button and see what happens.
Yep.
Scott, are you on the radio?
Yeah, I'm on the radio. How are you guys this morning?
Hey, good.
Good,
Thank you for
Scott.
calling in. What's happening, my man?
Okay, back to what Dan said about mailbox money. I want to share a little something real quick with you. I have a superintendent of schools friend up in eastern Kentucky that I've known for about, 15, 20 years or better. And one day I was up that way calling on the schools, and he asked me to go to lunch with him. And he shared something that just blew me away. Now, eastern Kentucky is about 99.9% white, okay?
Got it.
And we were talking about the kids and opportunities for them and things of this nature. And he said a lot of them leave. He said, but then a lot of them are staying. And he said, just for the grins, I was in a classroom of third and fourth graders. And he asked them, okay, what are you going to do when you graduate from high school? He said, one right after another said the same thing. Well, I'm going to get a check, then I'm going to buy a truck, and then maybe get a trailer, and nothing about going to work.
Nobody said a job in there, right?
Exactly. Not a one. And he said I got discouraged after about the 10th kid.
Wow.
So, and I know that countryside up there in Pike County and Perry County and all that is beautiful country.
Some of my roots are Harlan County, Kentucky. My grandmother.
Harlan County, yeah.
Scott,
I know it well.
if I lived there and I had a child, I had a son or daughter, I would tell them this. I would say, be so grateful you live in a county of so many lazy people, because you don't have to be a hero. You just have to work halfway, and you'll be rich in this town because nobody works. What a wonderful opportunity to have a business with a bunch of lazy people around you.
Well, they definitely had them.
Listen, coal miner's daughter.
That's a shame.
Yeah, hey, listen.
I hate to hear that.
Yeah, we do. Hey, listen, thank you, my man, for calling in.
You're welcome. Y'all have a great afternoon.
Thank you, Scott.
Do we have another caller waiting for us?
Yes, we do.
And do we know who it is?
Line 2.
It's lines 2. Brian, is that it? Brian, are you on the radio?
Yes, I'm on the radio.
Hey, we're ready for you, my man. Thank you for calling in.
Yeah, real quick, just a quick question, and then I'm going to hang up and listen on the radio. This deal about it costs more to keep somebody in prison for life than to execute them, that's a joke, right? That can't be for real. Tell me that's a joke. And I'm going to go ahead and hang up and listen on the radio.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's not a joke. When a person is sentenced to death and they put him on death row, the legal system and the court system, the way it works, ends up spending so much money, because what would you say, 30, 40 years sometimes these people sit on death row.
Several appeals,
legal system, somebody pays them. Guess who pays them? This is the court system.
We're not talking about the execution itself. We're talking about the longevity that they spend.
All the money that is spent to keep that person alive.
It's just like, statistically, I've heard this by people who I respect their opinion, that it costs more for me to put you in prison, not on death row, but in prison, than it would cost me to send you to college. And as a taxpayer, I go, well, that's a poor use of my money. Let's send them to some trade school or something to get them educated. We don't want them to be a in and out prison guy who's going in, out, out.
And that does happen.
It happens a lot.
Yeah. 340-1590, 340-1590. We're winding down, and Dan and I don't often have a subject that we talk about ahead of time that we know what we're going to talk about. We never do. But I guess it's time, because of the upheaval in our country and what is going on, and the move that so many, Winston Churchill, I'm paraphrasing, said, when you're young, if you're not a liberal, you don't have a heart. And when you're old, if you're not a conservative, you don't have a mind. Well, I'm sure, Dan, all of us guys were somewhat conscientious when we were young, thought we were going to cure the ills of the world and going to make life a better place. Remember John Lennon? He had a song about that.
Who?
That didn't work for him too well. Oh. But anyway,
That was Roger Daltrey, the Who.
Imagine.
Yeah, imagine, right? So the whole concept is that you have to grow up and face the music that not everybody is out there trying to do the right thing, and there are people going to scam the system, take advantage of the system, and take advantage of people and hurt people. And look at Cliff with the 2 new hips. I know there's a message here, but I lost it. Platinum, not titanium.
But Joe, when you're younger, you shouldn't have tremendous concerns. You know, if you think about it, you live sort of in an isolated world when you're young. Your parents sort of take care of you. You go to school. You don't have all these responsibilities. So it's much easier to think that money just appears magically.
Well, that's what they're thinking in Seattle. You know, so. Yeah.
Well, they want stuff that they don't have, and they want you and I as taxpayers to magically provide it for them.
You know, listen, I like that concept.
And they're saving money in Albuquerque because they're not sending out police officers on 911 calls. They're sending out social workers.
Oh, it's only right.
Unarmed.
Hey,
with the tranquilizer needle.
Is it time for me to go clunk?
I think it's time for you to go clunk. We're leaving you, I think, and until next week, hey, thanks for calling in, you guys. And I'm sorry we're not talking much business, but one of these days we will again. Thanks for listening. Thanks for calling.
And you are here next week, right?
I'm here next week, and then I'm in the Bahamas on the 27th for 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Am I going to do the show with Dan on the 31st?
I'm all for it.
Yep, I'm here, absolutely.
Great, wonderful.
Yeah, I'm all for it.
So we'll be.
We can get Greg to come and we can pick on it.
Got a question for you.
Yeah, get Greg to come. You guys can pick.
10 seconds.
I'm so happy.
What happened in Seattle?
You've been listening to the Team MARTEK Hour. The Team MARTEK Hour is a paid program. The content was provided by the advertiser. WPSL, its staff, management, and ownership were not responsible for its content. Investment involves risk. Prior to making any investment, an investor should meet suitability requirements. Past results are not necessarily indicative of future performance. Neither the opinions expressed nor the information provided constitutes a recommendation to purchase or provide investment advice. The material presented is not a substitute for obtaining professional advice from a qualified person or firm. Securities offered through Centaurus Financial, member FINRA and SIPC. Tune in again next Wednesday at 11:05 for the Team MARTEK Hour here on WPSL 1590.